Can't find it. Carl was trying to get one of the library equipment.
Elena, is there a sign-in sheet or something for public comments? No. Okay.
We'll put a newspaper up. Didn't even think about it, Dana, sorry.
That's okay.
Real short, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we'll get her up here.
Just have her on time.
Carla, those signs in your yard are too small, I can't read it.
Oh, no, look at that.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah,
that's
I've been
right.
sitting all day.
They just showed up one day.
Did they just show up, yeah? Hi, John.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Somebody's phone was locked, his phone.
Oh, my God, no.
I haven't heard the rest of the story yet, but, kept it unlocked.
Well, I bet he had a tough time getting that.
He's back, I called him. But I haven't gotten the details yet.
Yeah.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. We'll start out with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Trustee Cotterill.
Present.
Trustee Montel. Here. Trustee Long.
Here.
Trustee Shelburne. Trustee Frank here. Clerk Ford. Here. Trustee Goodman here. Trustee Conn.
Here.
Trustee Lindowski. All the other department heads are here. Move along to item 2, public comments. Any public comments? Please stand up, state your name and address, and try and keep the comments to about 2 minutes.
Okay, Judge Dana Bertling, address W229S8875 Jackson Parkway, Big Bend, 53103. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I noticed on our agenda that there are some certain things that I would like to address regarding the court. Do you want me to make my comments now or wait until it comes up in the agenda?
I think I would wait until the agenda item,
Okay, great.
unless you have something else to add.
No, it just has to pertain to that.
Okay, yeah, we'll address it then.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments? Move along to item 3, personal appearance, Annalise Smith from Recycling and Solid Waste Supervisor, Waukesha County, IGA. Good evening.
Good evening, hello.
Up there if you want.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to share the results of about a 2-year project with you. And also, I don't get to see you folks very often, but just to say hello and answer any questions that you may have about the recycling or hazardous waste programs from the county's perspective. So I've got about 10 minutes that I would like to share the history of the recycling program with you, as well as this new dividend program that we are excited to share with our communities. So basically, how this whole relationship started was back in 1990. The state passed a law that said you have to recycle, and we recycle in Wisconsin via a landfill ban. There's reporting and a lot of requirements that go into that law. And at the time, the state said, communities, how do you want to organize yourself? And so 26 of the municipalities in Waukesha County said, we want the county to take over this role of making this program work. And so that is how we got here today. So back in 1990, Big Bend passed a resolution, and then we've been in this relationship for recycling ever since. In 2001, recycling became and grew as a business in such a way that the county was able to begin offering dividends to its municipal partners in direct proportion to how much recycling was coming out of the different communities. Over the next, give or take, 19, 18 years, that amount for the village of Big Bend amounted to $119,000 in funds back to the community. However, one other step, so if you remember back before 2014, you just used to have the buckets and you'd have to keep paper separate from bottles and cans. Very labor intensive for hauling, and with gas prices continuing to rise, not very efficient. So the industry really pivoted to what we refer to as single sort recycling. My predecessor, Rebecca Matano, led that charge, and with that, we combined our recycling program operations with the city of Milwaukee to open up a new state-of-the-art facility, material recovery facility, or MRF for short. And that's today where all of your recyclables go to be sorted into about 13 different categories and then sold on to market. That relationship has been going great. Our combined tonnages are really what make the business sense work for that facility. If we had tried to do it without the city, and likewise if the city had tried to do it without Waukesha County, the economics just would not have worked out. So things were going really, really well until about 2018, when China passed some new administrative rules that banned imports of recyclables. You might have seen something about this in the news. And at that time, we continued to pay dividends to our communities, but they weren't tied to the actual benefits or losses of the program. And so we kept paying those dividends probably longer than we should have. So we eventually had to turn off the dividend program, kind of push pause on it, wait for markets to recover, and then pivot to design a new dividend program that was sustainable in the long term, taking into account actual programmatic gains and losses. So that is what we're here tonight with, the new IGA that represents the new dividend program that is based on actual performance. And then just as a fun fact, last year, Big Bend recycled 126 tons of recyclables. And what that roughly works out to is if you would have had to pay to throw those tons in the landfill, it would have been about an additional $10,000. So just to put into perspective the amount and volume of material that we're talking about.
Annalise, what does IGA stand for?
Oh, sorry, Intergovernmental Agreement. So if we can make an acronym for it, we're going to, right? So basically it's an agreement, memorandum of understandings are kind of another term, so. All right, so high level, how our program is funded, it is no tax levy. So it is purely funded by a state grant that we receive because we are that responsible unit for recycling, as well as the money that we earn from the sale of materials. What do we pay for from that fund? Well, we have to pay for the processing costs for those recyclables, all of the people that do the sorting, all of those types of things. And then you will be surprised to learn that not everyone is a perfect recycler. So we have about 10.7% of the material that comes into our facility is not from Waukesha County, is not recyclable. It is everything from chip bags to deer carcasses to propane tanks, you name it, we see it. So it costs us money to throw that stuff away. We also do a lot of recycling education programs, outreach, things to that nature, and other programmatic elements. And then we also have a fund balance that we retain for future MRF upgrades to keep up with evolving technology, as well as to cover us in the event of a significant downtime event due to like a fire, natural disaster, where we have to pay higher costs for kind of crisis reaction processing. So any questions so far? I know I've thrown a lot of information at you thus far. We're good? All right, let's keep going. So then again, as I mentioned, the markets did decline, and then there you can see the impact of those declining markets on our fund balance. We did get down in 2019 to historically kind of our bottom mark. We don't like to dip below 3 million in our fund balance because that is what we have historically known we need, as well as what national consultants have told us we need to protect ourselves in the event of an emergency. But now markets have begun to recover. You can see that fund balance is going back up, and we are again at a point where we are above 3.8 million, where we're or 3.5 million, excuse me, to where we feel comfortable paying out dividends again. So with the new dividend program, we are prepared to pay dividends next year, and it will be a little bit over $300,000 divided amongst the 26 participating communities that sign the IGA. So the new program, we brought together our subject matter experts from across the county and said, how can we create a model that is sustainable, lessens the impacts of these market waves, which we know will happen, provides new incentives for partnering with the county on education, because we know the more we can lower contamination, the more that our profits will stabilize and go up, and that it's sustainable. So the plan is that anytime we have a year where we are profitable and our fund balance is above $3.5 million, we would sell or send out dividends. It's a complicated formula that I'll go into in a later slide, but that's the plan. As I mentioned, in 2021, we are now above that 3.5 mark by about $300,000, so that is what the dividend payment will be. To lessen those off years where we may lose a little bit of money, but we're not in critical zone yet, between 3.1 and 3.5 million, there would be no dividend payment, but everything would just sit. And again, the plan for this is going to be that we would be giving you this information about what you could expect for your dividend payment in the summer of the preceding year. So you'll know what your check is going to be so that you can appropriately incorporate it into your budgets for the following year. And then last but not least, if we were to dip below $3.1 million, we would enact a tipping fee. And that would be a per household fee based on whatever we would need to get back up to that safeguard of $3.1 million. And it would be at our discretion, so that if we're at 2.99999, we're not gonna charge everyone 0.00001 cents, right? We're gonna be logical about it. We're gonna look at the trends and things to that nature. But we just wanna make sure, again, that it's a sustainable program, that we don't get over our skis and in over our heads, and that if we would get into a situation where a tipping fee would be required, that everybody knows up front what it would look like. So, the dividend. It has 4 components that would go into figuring out what your final percentage or amount would be. 50% will be based on your actual program costs. So, communities with more expensive programs would be eligible for a higher dividend. We are already collecting your program costs because we have to report back to the state, and we would be looking at a 5-year average to calculate that. In the old dividend program, they used a 10-year average, so we just wanted to tighten that up so that we thought 5 years was more appropriate. 35% of the dividend would be based on household services and the number of households that you serve. So if you're growing and adding households, logic would presume that you're going to be growing the number and tonnage of recyclables that you're sending to the facility, and thus eligible for a portion of that dividend. That is really the crux and the largest components of the dividend, and those are tied directly to the previous model. Then we did add 2 new components, smaller. 7.5% would be based on providing additional recycling services. Eric and I were just talking, there's some stuff that we cannot take in our recycling bin that we know residents really need access to programs to dispose of. waste oil is one of them, right? So if the community goes out of its way to provide that service for its residents, we want to say thank you and incentivize that. And so that will go into a calculation for that 7.5%. E-waste is another one, hosting free e-waste events. There's a full list of items. And then the last 7.5%, again, incentivizing communities to partner with us, making sure that website information is up to date. John's Your Hauler has access to an app that their drivers can put on their phone. And we partnered with our LIS team to develop the app where it'll be on their phone, and there will be 2 buttons on the app, and it'll say bagged recyclables. Bagged recyclables are really, really bad. They mess up our screens. You never really know what's in a bag of recyclables, so it's just dangerous. So bagged recyclables and contamination. Hoses, wires, propane tanks, who knows what, right? And so as the driver's driving along, if they see bagged recyclables or a contaminated load, they can hit the button. That information will come back to our office, and then we can send out a reminder postcard to that home saying, oops, it looks like you may have made a mistake. Please remember this is what is recyclable in your cart. It's pretty slick, it's pretty fast, and in the communities that have implemented it, we know it's pretty effective. So again, we're always trying to reduce that 10.7%, and we're trying to get one more propane tank out of a recycling cart, because every propane tank that comes into our facility, or every battery containing plastic device that comes into our facility, is a potential fire, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So those are the 4 components. Again, we would have a spreadsheet that would automatically calculate this for each of the communities, and then we would be able to provide you that information with what your exact dividend payment would be. In the event that the fund dips below the floor, this has never happened, so I want to preface this slide with this has never happened, but again, we're trying to be proactive and responsible and sustainable. What we would do is we would calculate a fee based on the actual loss, and then calculate that fee on a per household calculation. Our biggest loss year to date was about $150,000, which would equate roughly to about $1.10 per household for the year. So that is what we would be kind of looking at, just to give you some, again, sense of scope of what our biggest loss year was. But even our biggest loss year was still in that no fee dividend zone. So we would have to have several loss years before we would get to that area. So with that, I threw a lot at you. Thank you so much for having me, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So in that last year, would you just bill the community for that, their dollar amount, and then you would bill the people, or would you bill the household?
So we would bill the, just like we would pay the municipality the dividend, we would bill the municipality for.
So then we would have to bill them.
Correct. And that's why we heard from our municipal partners that it was so critical to get that in advance notice so that the exact amount could be budgeted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Item 4, reports. Fire Department monthly report.
Okay, we had 10 calls for the month, 131 for the year. All trucks went through their yearly DOT inspections, no major issues with all the units, except for 1151, the heater core needed to be replaced. Big Bend Fire Department was awarded $130,500 in grant monies. These monies are to be directed towards our EMS program. Monies can be used for equipment, for both ambulances, supplies, training, staff retention, and promotion. Our officers have met and will be putting a list together of priority equipment and needs for the department. With this money, the fire department has been awarded over $167,486 this year. Captain Ludwig is working with our medical director to upgrade our service to advanced EMT. This will allow our paramedics and advanced EMTs to use their skills. The week of October 10th is Fire Prevention Week. Staff will be going out to our local schools to teach fire prevention to the children. We encourage everyone to check their smoke and carbon monoxide detectors and change their batteries. COVID numbers have leveled off and our PPE is okay. Any questions?
No, I just want to say fantastic job to you and your staff on those grant monies. I mean, really putting the pressure on Chief Don over there with bringing money in this year.
Chief, I got a, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that's amazing to have brought in more money than you're budgeting for in grant money. I know it's not gonna happen every year, but it sure is amazing to see it happen once. Thank you.
Could you help us out?
Chief, I had a couple of questions for you. I just kind of spurred my memory here whenever you were talking in your report here about training and also about the grant money too. I know that earlier this year, some of the grant money I believe you had received and went to a tracking program for training and people's records, things of that nature. Have you been able to fully incorporate that in now?
We're working on that. As far as my son and another member of our department, we're getting that all up and going.
Okay.
So it's in the process. Most of the training we get put in there, but it's not 100% yet. So.
How about just training in general? I know that earlier this year and also last year we discussed some of the training needs, some of the baseline training, incident command, some of the firefighter level training and things. Have that been resolved? Have you guys got up to the training metrics that you need?
For the most part. Yeah, as far as all of our staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably still a couple that need to have, well, they've got the basic as far as NIMS goes,
Okay.
that they received in their initial WCTC training.
One of the things that we had talked about with the board too is that the board needs to be up on NIMS as well. We had talked about that and trying to get you as a board to, so we're NIMS compliant with the politicians of the community, so they're aware. So that's something I think we've been talking about as well, and making sure that the staff here is also has the basics as well.
Okay. Yeah, I know that FEMA, for instance, has that for free on their website, so we can certainly put together an email. I can work with you on that to send that out so that we can all get it. I know we've talked about it, and I think that would be a great idea to follow through so that we get it.
Captain Fickow and Captain Ludwig have been the ones who've been really pushing in regards to the training and in regards to making sure that we're getting everything in that we need to get in. So.
A couple of the things that we're going to talk about tonight too kind of relates back to that as well, so it kind of brings up the importance of it, seeing things that happened with Hurricane Ian and other natural disaster events here recently, so that's kind of why I was asking, I guess. Thank you. Had the command staff, have you guys got all your training up to speed now for NIMS and the basic training that you need?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So.
Cool. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you. Item 4B, the library monthly report. Meeting Carla.
Well, we ended up our most successful summer since I've been here, and now we're starting fall. We finished September, and fall and winter programs are usually geared towards adults, though I have seen a lot more kids come in, which is really encouraging too. We got a lot of new patrons coming in this summer. We had a program in here. Heather from Fox River Fibers came 2 weeks ago, Last night, we were at the Hygeia Spring, where the owner opened up the spring house, which is really fascinating. If any of you want to see that, just go there and ask him, it's really cool. I took a couple pictures, they're on Facebook. We're going to have an author speaker named Chad Lewis come in at the end of the month, and for any families that are interested in strange and unusual Wisconsin history, this man is the researcher for that. And he presents things really in a real fun way, but he leaves the conclusion of whether this is true or not up to the listener. So I just enjoy his presentation. I've been taking a lot of webinars. Now is the time when we directors all get caught up with that. And I want to thank all of you department people for help with the carpet cleaning. It truly took this village to get this carpet cleaned. Everyone, including people on the was it planning commission, you all moved things and moved it back, and it all worked, and I think the carpet looks great. And now the preschool moms appreciated the carpet not having stains on it, because the kids are crawling around in here twice a month. The last thing I wanted to mention is I'm out here asking for bakers to donate bakery on election day for our fundraiser. We don't do a lot of fundraisers for the library. We capitalize on people's appetites when they come in to vote. So if you have any wives, children, or if you're a chef, drop it off the night before. The last thing I wanted to mention is a letter that was directed. It said to the board members, and I wasn't sure if probably library, but I'm going to read it. It's from Emily Sitkar. She had donated $1,000 last month to the library, and I didn't know her very well, but now I do. And I talked to her personally, sent her a thank you. And she sent this back. Just want to thank you for your kind words regarding my donation. I worked in the library at Pulaski High School my senior year and treasured the experience. I've been an avid reader since the early 50s and haven't stopped. Books are so expensive these days, and rather than buy them, I use libraries. I also have a group of fellow readers, and we've exchanged hundreds and hundreds of books through many years. If I'm able to help out at all, that's great. I can't think of a better organization to share some of my money with. Thank you and all the board members for your dedication to this library, Emily Sitkar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Item 4C, Police Department monthly report.
Reports should be in your package. One burglary, one theft, both business related. One assault, one fraud. One adult arrest, 65 traffic stops with 67 citations. 342 total calls for service. 109 busy checks, house checks, extra patrols. 5 traffic accidents and responded to the fire department for 7 calls. You can read the notes there at your leisure. If you have any questions, let me know. Salvage vehicles, since we started it, back up, we're at 86, with 10 more that were done today at the offsite dealership that we're working with. Which hopefully will be like 300 cars per year coming up. And the state debt collection numbers are there for year to date for both Big Bend and Waukesha. And assist other agencies, 14 hours and 44 minutes. That's all I got. Questions, comments, complaints, concerns?
All seems well. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Item 4D, President's report. Nothing to report this month. Item 4E, Public Works Department. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening. We have 4 barrels, 4 mining mistakes, and 4 mistakes for the barrel. The current sending number is that we're at 34 barrels to date, and we're still in October. So I think we're gonna pass 40, which right now we're at an all-time high of what we've done. Just to give you guys a little update on the emergency generator. I know Warren has been included on some of these emails, and so is the finance and personnel. We were told this was gonna get shipped in August. For the transfer switch, it didn't get shipped in August, it didn't get shipped in September. Now it's supposed to come at the end of this month, apparently. We did the dumpster this month. I only had 7 people show up. So it's something that we're gonna look at for 1 more year, and if we can't, we're gonna have to change something. We're just not drawing the people in. I'm not saying it was full, but something we need to work on. You guys had pictures of the stump or the tree that came down the river. There was actually 3 of them that were tied in there. So I ended up calling a couple of people back on I think it was 16th, it was a Friday. And I actually got a volunteer to help us do bring a bowl. We had a huge tree that landed up against a pier. And every piece of equipment we had that could pull was there pulling this thing out. Once we got on the lower, very big piece of tree, had it been on there, when our log came down, we wouldn't have the pier anymore. So thanks to my guys that came back and helped us out with that. The thing with wasp nests here in the village, I've never seen it this bad. We had 4 or 6 in the village park, or 4 in the village park, and 6 down at the rural home cemetery, so that was a challenge. I think that's what you guys thought that before. We have a large tree that went down at the cemetery that was taken care of. Just a portion of Adam Court, property owner up there is going to put in a culvert, and we got some of it out of the way, and we did some seeding and matting and stuff like that up there. We also leveled the driveway up at the cemetery. It was getting pretty bumpy. Did it on the trail. Also had a Public Works Commission road tour that all the people that were on there went out, and or most of the people that were on there went out and took a look at some of our streets, saw the condition, saw some of the challenges we have with water. So I was grateful for that. Did an insurance update for the DPW, and I'm working with Laura right now on doing the fuel tank. It's been some concerns because there's paint peeling off the tank. So we will wire brush the tank and paint it green, and it won't look as rusty, I guess. A couple things coming up here this weekend is Forever in Our Hearts. It's a run walk. Leaf bin will be constructed on Monday, March 10th. And the Village Fall brush pickup will be October 17th to the 21st. If the people have the stuff at the curb or at the end of the road, it'd be nice, parallel to the road, so you pick up mechanically. That would also be helpful. And that's all I have.
Do you know when the brackets are coming in for the weekend lights?
It's only 10 or 12 days.
Was it noticed after you got them, obviously? that
Well,
they weren't gonna
we sent
work?
brackets for a wooden pole,
Okay.
and we got metal poles, and it just is not gonna work. So, and I see that somebody just north of town in the southbound lanes ran into the school sign there, so we're replacing some of that stuff there, hopefully to help account. But we do have the lights, they've been programmed, we just need to get the right bracket. So,
Eric, I thought that electronic sign was to be used occasionally to let the citizens know when dumpsters are there, or brush pickup is there. So that was discussed once.
no, there was discussion about.
We're only gonna use that sign once a year for Rumble on the River?
Well, we use it other times too, but we have to come up with a rental policy now. That was not meant for that. We were gonna get signage printed and put on sandwich boards and stick it out in the subdivisions. Printing for that is more than I have in my budget right now, so we're working on something for next year. But still not having enough people. It's on the website, it's on the Facebook thing when that dumpster is. It's been the 3rd week, 3rd Saturday in every month since before I've gotten here. It's just, I know a lot of people, when I talk to Johns, a lot of people are, have been using them to pick up all their large items, and some people break it all down and put it in a garbage can.
We should have our village electronic sign down here. I think it's the 25th, it's going to be put in, and then we could put that kind of stuff in there as far as dump day, brush pickup, meeting.
Brush pickup's been the 3rd week in October.
Everybody forgets, so we just gotta get all that stuff out there. So that'll help with the electronic sign.
Thank you.
Any reports from professional services?
Not this time.
Very good, thanks. We'll move on to item 5, consideration and approval of minutes.
Move to dispense with reading the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, approval of bills, discussion, consideration, and approval of bills in the amount of $79,647.22.
I'll make a motion to approve that amount.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No old business tonight, so we'll move along to new business. Item 7A, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the issue of temporary Class B retailer's license for the Big Bend Vernon Lions Club event on October 15th, 2022. The application is in your packet.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No abstaining? Motion carries. Item 7B, discussion, consideration, and approval of Resolution 22-03, resolution to adopt Waukesha County All Hazards Mitigation Plan. I'll read through the resolution quickly. Resolution to adopt the Waukesha County All Hazard Mitigation Plan. Fiscal impact, none. Whereas Village of Big Bend recognizes the threat that natural hazards pose to people and property. And whereas undertaking hazard mitigation actions before disasters occur will reduce potential for harm to people and property and save taxpayer dollars. And whereas an adopted all hazard mitigation plan is required by FEMA as a condition of future grant funding for mitigation products under FEMA pre- and post-disaster mitigation grant programs. And whereas the Village of Big Bend participated jointly in the planning and update process with Waukesha County and other local units of government to prepare an all-hazard mitigation plan, which was made available for review and will reside permanently in the Waukesha County Office of Emergency Management. And whereas the Wisconsin Emergency Management and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Region V, officials have reviewed the 2021 update and approved it contingent upon this official adoption of the participating governing body. And now therefore, it is hereby resolved that the Village of Big Bend hereby adopts the 2021 Waukesha County All Hazards Mitigation Plan as an official plan, and do hereby endorse and agree to participate in the implementation of the Waukesha County All Hazard Mitigation Plan as it applies to this jurisdiction. So I will need a motion to approve Resolution 22-03.
I'll make that motion. Approve it.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
If anybody has any questions about what's contained in the plan, it's the full plan. If you ever want a couple 100 pages of reading, is available online. It's free and open to the public. Otherwise, I can answer any questions or get those direct answers from Waukesha Emergency Management if you do so desire. It's kind of a cookie cutter thing. Just basically mitigation is to try to remove the hazards, identify those hazards, and resolve them before the issue comes to play. Good example is if you have dead trees, to remove those dead trees before they come down in the windstorm.
Did we determine a place to put that stuff? If trees and debris go, is there a spot where the trees before the go?
Yeah, so inside of the village proper, we don't really have a good space to be able to dedicate towards that. Our first approach would be to outreach to the Waukesha County and see where a viable option would be. Most likely it could become something up by the interstate, but because we as a village don't own property that would be big enough to house something like that, except down here, and because it's on a floodplain, we can't consider that to be a viable option. We would either have to do it on private property or go to the county and look at either county or state-owned property.
So we have to determine that at that time, or is that something we should do beforehand?
Yeah, so that's part of this mitigation plan on the county level, is they have pre-identified some of those viable areas. So what we would have to do if we have, for instance, a windstorm come through and hey, we've got a lot of debris, we would need to outreach to the county and see if they can assist us with getting a laydown area for that debris, both natural and building debris, things of that nature.
Thanks, Tony. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item 7C, consideration and approval of the following operators license applications. Zingers Club Shamrock, two applicants, Diane Wetzel and Marcella Valdez Bravo. Chief?
Jim A. Brown, Public Safety Department, they were approved at Public Safety with no issues.
I concur, no issues of public safety.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
One or both? Both.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7D, discussion, consideration, and approval of having the judge bring laptop back into Village Hall and keeping it here, and also closing out credit card. Jeff?
This, we were required by Waukesha County to provide an office for the judge, which we have. It's right down the hallway here. It's for the judge, she can use it anytime she wants. It's her choice whether she uses it or clerk uses it, but it's there. We're also required to provide a computer. There is a computer in that room. And as you know, in the computer world, you have different logins. The judge can log into one, the clerk can log into one. They can't use each other's. Now, she had come to the budget committee and asked for a laptop, which we approved, made it very clear that, like all other computer items, they are to be left at the village hall. She can use it, she can take it to trainings, but it is to remain here at all times. So basically, we're asking the judge to return it. The credit card has been closed out. It was not authorized by the budget committee. It wasn't authorized through finance, or it was not authorized through the board. So it has been closed out.
So the judge set up their own credit card, is what you're saying? Or how did the credit card?
Yeah, we had a judge for many, many years that never had a credit card. When they had bills, they just, had them billed to the village, or they paid them and got reimbursed.
So who set up the credit card?
I don't.
I believe the clerk typically handles setting up all of the department heads.
I don't know.
Anybody who has a village credit card, they set it up. Prior approval, I don't know
I don't know where it
who
came from.
approved it.
It just showed up.
Okay.
Danny, do you have a question?
I have a comment on that.
Okay.
I never applied for it, it was just given to me.
Okay.
And I accepted it because I do this, when I go to the seminars or whatever, it's a big hassle to call in, get a hold of Elena or Kelly or Laura or whoever to get these things set up and to get the, I do it at different times when the village
Right.
isn't here or anything. But I never applied for it, I never asked for it, it was just given to me and I thought, great, I never abused it, I never put any charges on it that should not have been there. I did lose the first receipt, the $7, but I called Walmart and got a hold of the it took a while, but I got a hold of the manager who was able to run it and run me off a new receipt. And I did send that back to, and I think everybody got a copy of that. If not, it's in my email, I can still give you another one or make a copy of the original.
It's fine, we got it.
Okay, so,
Um,
and then,
That really wasn't part of the issue either.
well,
I mean,
I don't know what the issue was with the carbonate.
a big part of the issue is being over budget, and that in the training area of the judge is required to take one course per year, he's up to that. We approved it, in the budget committee, that expense is like $1,300 for those credits that she needs. She was told not to go out of state and get other credits online. She did.
When
It
would
just-
that happen?
I don't know when it happened,
No,
you
when
were
was I told I can't go
2,800.
out of line, it was all, you were all.
I'm
on
not gonna
Zoom.
argue with the Dana, you
No, I'm just
2,800.
asking.
$2,800 over budget, and then you put another training class on the credit card.
That's
So
because
was-
it was never invoiced in 2021. NJC called and talked to Laura about it, and I have no idea how that conversation went, but it never got paid. And I don't know who opens up my mail that has my name on it, but I don't. And I've received mail, in my folder and whatnot, so I don't know who opens up my mail.
Your clerk does.
Okay, so then apparently Gail must have gotten it, and I don't know what happened to it, I never saw it. So it was never turned in 2020 or 2021. Also, NJC had issues with their billing, and they had, Jared had called me up and said, we had issues with people doing our billing, we don't know if you were invoiced for this or not in 2020 or 2021, whatever the invoice date was, I don't know offhand. And they wanted to talk to, I went back in my records and my emails and stuff, and I said, well, I did find an email where it said something got paid. And I have that email, I forwarded it to him. He said he would contact Laura and go through what got paid and what did not. Yes,
I'm just kind of thinking through numbers here in my head. If
Okay.
we didn't get invoiced for 2020 or 2021, on a normal timely basis, that's a $1,399 course, I believe. That's $2,800 right there that would put her over budget for this year. But she had to take her class this year.
She took it virtual last year.
I don't think they give you a discount for virtual.
She did her.
But do you understand what I'm saying? If they didn't bill us 2 years in a row and now all of a sudden they realized it and started billing us?
We'd have to go back and look, but I.
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
I think it's only one class. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was only the one class that didn't get paid.
Right, but I would like someone to dig into those payments and invoices and see when we received them. If we received all 3 invoices in the same fiscal year, it's gonna put you 3
Right,
times
I
over
know,
budget.
I know.
Which is the biggest problem right here now, is you're so far over budget on education costs and we don't know why.
Well, we do know why, because there's extra courses taken this year that had nothing to do with that $1,300. The $1,300 is the course that she is taking this year, and they took it last year virtually, because they didn't have the course during COVID. But we can have the clerk look into it.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking, is if we can
Yeah, because
get a statement of the last 3 years of educational costs, when we were invoiced and when we paid.
Because I did, most of the classes that I've been taking have been the free classes through MJC, so I don't know where that would have come in,
I
but.
would guess you as the department head's responsible, like any other one, to manage that and know where you're at.
Right, and I would if I got.
We're not gonna know,
Right,
and we're not gonna take our time.
They don't send her the invoice personally.
right,
It comes to the village.
nobody tells me when an invoice comes in for stuff. I have yet to even see my office supplies.
Do you work with your-
Usually what I want to see happen, what I would like to see happen is, for whoever's gonna order whatever is needed, that they call up and say, hey, we need, a box of file folders, And it'd be like, okay, so then we okay that, and I write it down, and I can
Well,
keep track of
isn't-
what our expenses
Isn't
are.
that something
But
that
our
your
office
clerk would do?
supplies
We don't
are,
order yours.
I don't know who orders.
Do you communicate with your clerk? Does she work for you?
Yes, she does, and she's
You-
supposed
Do you
to.
communicate?
I would think we do.
I mean, it's-
Obviously not, because I don't know what office supplies are ordered and what aren't. And
Well, then what's
when I went
requested?
back, and there was a chair that I okayed for her to have, and then there was, what was it? There was file folders for me, there were page savers for me that I ordered. There was a camera that ended up going on ours because for the, when Chief Judge Doro came in for her meeting, she stated that we had to have this, our stuff separated down in Station 2. So now there's a camera down there, so that came out of the court budget, which I didn't realize until I questioned why it was in there, and I was told why. And then, which is fine. Those are like the only 5 things that I know of even got put into our expense, and all of a sudden we've got this huge
You don't get any
outrageous.
invoices every month like the other department heads that you have to
Nope.
sign off on for
Nope.
payment? I mean, the fire department does it every month, the
Nope.
police department, DPW.
Nope, I have not.
Can you ask Laura or Kelly to make sure that that happens? Everything that gets paid out of your budget should have your signature on a bill.
I agree. Yes,
The
please.
fact that you're not getting those bills is an issue.
Mhm.
For right now, I'm gonna suggest we gotta address the laptop part, I guess. That laptop is owned by the municipal court system, or the joint municipal court, correct?
Yes,
That's not your personal, okay.
right, no, it's not my personal, and if you recall, we had that conversation with Chief Judge Doro about
Right.
that, okay.
Right, it's a laptop, it's portable. I got no problem with you taking it to school, home to work if you have to, or whatever. Understand that that is a business laptop, and it is open to public records requests at any time.
Oh, okay. You see, it's not open to the public, but
No,
public
but if
record,
someone does
yes,
a public
yes.
records request with the clerk, anything
Oh, yeah.
that they request, it's gotta be reasonable. You can't request the entire contents of the hard drive, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say on that. The rest of this, the credit card's closed out. I don't see a problem with that, but that's not my sole decision. I thought every department head should have one.
Yeah, I do too,
For
but
for
I
whatever reason they need, if it's within their budget. It's your job to manage your budget, and when you're out of money, you're
I
out
know,
of
but
money.
like I said, I mean, from what I know came out of our budget and what is actually out of our budget, does not match at all. I mean,
I will talk to Laura and Kelly and get them to start getting you invoices every month and
okay,
make sure that you are aware of what's going in and out of your department.
all right, that'd be great.
Awesome.
Well, your clerk should know that. I mean,
She should, but if it's not being shared with the department head, that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know where I stand with anything.
Ultimately, it's Dana's responsibility for that budget. And if she's not getting the tools to manage it, I think that's shame on us.
And then,
So I don't think there's any action required on this unless you want to, I don't know.
I think we'll take it back to the joint committee and discussion.
Yeah, you guys have a meeting coming up anyway, right?
Right.
Okay.
all right, and then I'd like to add to that, because of the confusion and everything with the laptop, and, state statutes in the 755.01 that states that the Wisconsin status provides that the municipal court is a co-equal independent branch of the municipal government, subject to the superintending authority to the Supreme Court through the Chief Justice in the judicial administrative district. State law further provides that during my term of office, I am the custodian of court records and responsible for the safety, security, access, and confidentiality of these records. And there is a confidential information that's contained on that computer and that laptop, and I have to maintain that in secure custody. So just so everybody is aware, you know, there's kind of seems to be a you know, confusion as to, you know, where the court stands in what capacity. Because of this and the way things were handled, and I had talked to both, 3 people actually. I talked to Michael Nyman, who is the president, or what is his actual title? Let's see. I talked to Judge Jankowski, who is Municipal Judge Association President, and I talked to the District Chief Judge and Municipal Court Liaison, Steve Wimmer, and the Judicial Administrative District Administrator, which is Michael Nyman, and all 3 of them said the same thing regarding the laptop, because of the confidential matter on it. I did ask that Steve Wimmer join us. He is the District 3 Court Liaison. I asked him to join our October 11th meeting for this year at 2022 at 4 p.m. to discuss if there's any other further details or questions or whatnot, to have him present. And so I would like to have him added to the agenda at this time.
As far as I'm concerned, I 100% agree with that. I would think that this being probably one of the most secure places in the village, with the police here and the cameras, a locked facility, your office is a locked facility.
See, the difference between that is the fact that it's a shared office with the court clerk.
That's your choice.
And, no, it's not my choice. I'm being, okay, back up here. My court clerk has her office, and it has, and her, whatever, her files, whatever she contains in there. And under the state statutes, actually, I am to have my own separate office and chambers, aside from, and so is the court clerk, and it all needs to be separate from the police department, okay? And to compromise, because we don't have the room here, you know, to have me in one room and make sure it's all locked up and nobody has a key to it, and the court clerk can have another office, you know, and then everybody else. We don't have the room here. I think everybody agreed to that. And so to compromise, my stuff is, a lot of my judge material and stuff like that, that work I do is off-site to accommodate that. The boardroom is not always available, so I come in at weird hours, so I don't bother anybody, I don't come, I don't interfere with any meetings or anybody, like that. So I've really accommodated a lot to the village in respect to not having what is actually stated in the municipal Wisconsin state statutes. And I know I was called on this, and Chief Judge Darrow was asked to come in and go through and do an audit, and she did that last year. And then she asked to have a meeting with the administrator, president of the board, which was Warren, and Warren did attend that meeting. And she was very, very adamant that she wanted us to be, work collaboratively together with the board and the court, and to make sure that we can have, stay within the means and the boundaries of state statutes, and not overstep our boundaries. I don't tell anybody, I don't tell Eric how to run his department, and I don't tell, the chief and the fire department how to run theirs, and they don't tell me how to run mine. I mean, we all work really good together, and I'd like to see more of that from a lot of the members of the board.
I guess I'm a little bit concerned by a statement that you just made. You said that, correct me if I'm wrong, that some of your materials and work products are not kept in the village hall, is that correct?
Yeah, they can't be.
Because of the confidentiality issues?
Correct.
So.
It's on the laptop. And that needs to be my secure. Pardon?
So that they are in your possession, presumably somewhere that is where they're being kept, is that as secure as this building? I guess
Yes.
I'm troubled at this point that there is very high level confidentiality issues that you as a judge, have access to that are not in what I would consider a secure facility at this point. If they are not in this physical building, I would say that wherever else they are is probably less secure than here. I don't want to be presumptuous, but are they in your home? Are they transported in your vehicle?
They're in an off-site office. I don't leave them in my vehicle. Mostly what I'm talking about is the laptop.
Sure.
Laptop, and there might be some copies or whatever of my notes or whatnot that I take home and I shred after I put them on, put them in whatever on my laptop that I put them.
Where's the offsite office at?
And who is paying for that off-site office? And the shredding, is that up to the standards that are required of
Yeah.
these high-level types of confidentiality?
Yes.
My question on it only would be, who's doing your network security in your offsite office?
And all of that too.
Cotney. But, I shouldn't say, Cotney is the person or the group that works on my personal computer as well as the court computer. But as it stands, I have, all my stuff is put on the computer and it's under, different folders, file folders and whatnot on there. So the security of it is there. Nobody getting my laptop unless, they figured out or put in some kind of a diskette or whatever, or as Warren knows, can come up with my password. And
Where's
I
the
do
physical
change it.
laptop at right now?
Pardon?
Where's the physical laptop?
It's locked up in a file cabinet right now in my home office.
And what security system do you have at your home office?
Cameras. Cameras,
I guess
deadbolts.
that's the question we have as a board is where is it? What security system is being used to protect that information?
Yeah, I have a camera. Anybody walking up my driveway, my camera goes off. Anybody walking into my office.
I'm not worried about someone stealing the physical laptop. That's peanuts.
I'm more worried about what's.
It's the data that when she connects to the internet
It'll
to
Yeah,
work or
VPN.
whatever,
Yeah, it's through Cotney set
as
it all
long, as
up.
long as Cotney knows that that's a government issue computer and it
Yes.
needs to adhere to the same regulations we do here,
Yep.
then it's fine.
Can we get a statement
I
from Cotney?
can call and get something from him in writing.
I guess I'm still concerned about the way these secure items are being handled, and I wish to see it come back on site, and somehow that we make that happen. I'm not confident in what is
I would like
being
that
told to
too,
me
but
right
we
now.
don't have an office for the judge. Her space for doing her job has to be kept separate from the court clerks.
Yeah, and there's no statutory authority saying that, that I have to keep it on site as long as
No.
it's secured and I'm responsible for it. If I were to turn it over to anybody, then I can get in trouble. I can get in big trouble. So, I mean, that was told to me point blank by Michael Nyman that I would be in violation and I could get into a lot of trouble.
Unfortunately, I'm still not convinced that this is the best way to be treating these types of confidential items, and, like you said, Warren, if you could please follow up with our IT specialist.
Yep, I'll give him a call
And
tomorrow.
if we can possibly somehow figure out a better way to give her a workspace here. Again, I'm just not confident in these materials being outside of the purview of the village offices.
Mike, would you like to attend our meeting on October 11th at 4?
If I can, I certainly will.
Okay.
What is this meeting? I'm not
It's a
aware
court
of
budget
this.
meeting, but because that's where everything, and that's where this whole thing exploded from, was in that meeting. So, and that's a meeting where the joint
Village of Waukesha and
Thank
Village
you.
of Exeter.
come together, and that way, and that's why I invited Judge Steve Wimmer to come, is because we have both boards, somebody from both boards attending. We can get this resolved and put it behind us.
Well, village equipment is basically a Big Bend thing, not necessarily a Waukesha thing. So I don't even know if it's been on the agenda. We're addressing it now.
Well, it is, I mean, they own 8% of it, right?
Mm-hmm. And they paid for part of it.
They gotta pay for part of that software that's on there every year, licensing.
That's true. They paid for half of that.
That's, they have every, well, legally every bit of say, not proportionally.
And are there records on that laptop for Village of Waukesha?
Guaranteed.
Yes.
So they do have a say in all of this, I would think also. What time is that meeting, please?
And they, 4 o'clock, but they've also offered to let the judge have an office in their facility.
I never heard that. That'd be
That
awesome.
issue, why have we not looked at that?
They also offered
Sure,
to,
please.
hold the court there since they had a bigger facility.
Whoa, 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 when did all this come about? Because I asked about this a long time ago, because they have the perfect setup in there for the court, and, I mean, it was,
It was shot down by Gail, because Gail, being both clerks, police and court,
okay,
couldn't do the commute back and forth at the right times, and she'd have to lug all the records back and forth. I believe that was what it was. Attorney Schober wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm searching whether there are any legal issues in this thing, because I felt municipal lawyers should get involved in other types of decision-making. We're involved in the legal stuff and not so much the practical things, that's up to you. But I guess my first question is, that's the discussion, does the village have the authority to mandate where village property is kept? The answer is yes. So we start with that proposition. However, I think that in the situation where there are concerns relative to confidentiality,
Can you
although the village can mandate where the property is kept, in situations where there might be confidential information that has to be protected, reasonable steps consistent with protecting that information have to be undertaken. And if it results in an expense to the village to have a safe or something else, well, the village is just going to have to bear that expense. I just want to throw that in for your consideration as you talk about what you want to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Maybe we'll address that issue, again regarding the Village of Waukesha providing that office like they offered and the court facility up there.
Super.
Can we come back next month and have an update, please, on what is going to be taking place?
Yep.
Yep.
Because again, I still have the concerns on the safety of the confidentiality of that information that is not being kept on site.
And that was my concern too. So
I will,
I appreciate the
I will
effort
call
you made
back
to,
tomorrow.
in your home to do this, but I just, it doesn't sound like it is the appropriate way to be handling this type of information to me. And I guess I'd like to have a review of all this again.
Warren, I just would
Yes,
like
sir.
to make a suggestion.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be possible to have her just basically line in from home into the system? All the records that are kept here, and then if the access is needed, then you can just line VPN.
right.
that's how it's set up.
Okay.
But she needs a computer at home to line in here too, which is the judge's laptop.
Right. It's on the VPN.
We had to provide her with a computer, and the laptop, I guess, was the choice of Dana's. I don't know.
Well, and
And it makes more sense for her to have a laptop than a desktop, just for the simple fact that she's gotta go from here to home, and you need your laptop here when you're in court, and you need your laptop at home when you're working from home.
right, and
Now, if Connie set up the VPN and everything's kosher like it is here, I'm good with that, because I'm confident in their abilities and they know what the government requirements are for security. He'll probably call you tomorrow, telling you I'm nosing around. But
Yeah,
I
they,
have-
they won't do anything unless Elena calls them anyway, so,
Sure he will. If I call him, he'll do it.
well. You're the president.
That's got nothing to do with it. So, all right, are we done with this topic?
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening.
You bet. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. Item 7E, discussion, consideration, and approval, possible approval, appointment of Victor Buckholz to the Public Works Commission. Victor is going to take John Sonnenberg's place, at least try to. Would like to make a motion.
I'll make the motion for approval of Mr. Buckholz for Public Works.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7F, discussion, consideration, and approval of changes to Chapter 9 Village Ordinance. That is our streets and sidewalk ordinance. It is in your packet. It is lengthy. It's not that lengthy though. What's at the back? Oh, what's that? And I believe all of the changes are in red, proposed changes.
Since we just got this evening, and as you said, it is lengthy.
It's not as long as I thought it was.
I would like time to look at this before we vote on it.
We have had this on the quote-unquote table for about a year and a half. I thought we passed this.
Actually, it's been on the table for longer than that. I've learned that this was approved back in 2016, except for the, what's in red, which is update from the 2016 version. This was approved by the village board, but the village president at the time did not sign it and codify it. I don't know if there's reasons with that, but what we're working off of right now, Eric, is from how many years ago?
I think it was 2016, and we changed some of the specs in 2013. So 16 was brought up, and I thought it was all taken care of too. The clerk cannot find a signed copy of that anywhere. There has been some changes added to that. I don't have a problem, as trustee Monsell said, you know, if you want to table that until November, maybe we can find everybody a chance to read it. But at one point or another, we have to get that taken care of.
I would appreciate that as well.
I'm gonna make a motion to table this for one more month so that we have a chance as a village board to review the changes that have been made rather than approve something as we are first seeing it tonight. I just like time to read through it, please.
I second that.
Any further discussion?
And what's the significance of the blue highlights?
Blue.
Blue,
Take it really good.
page 11. Versus the red.
Eric?
I don't know why they're blue.
So it's-
Mine are in red.
Well, no, this is blue. Dust control during construction
Number
shall
6.
consist of watering the roadway and shall comply with section 624. Is
It's
that
not
an
dust control.
addition?
I'll go back and look at the original one, but I thought that was definitely in there because we enforced it when Pan and Dolan did Edgewood.
Or do you just run out of red ink on that one page and all of us?
I know it wasn't done very well when 164 was all about, because the whole front of my house, just the time of that one.
That is the only blue in there, too, so
I
item
think
6
that's
on.
supposed to be red, tomorrow night. I don't know why it's blue.
Okay,
This does bring into modernization some of the codes from the state level.
right.
Things that we've discussed in recent applications for development.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion tabled. Item 8, closed session. Do we have any need to go into closed session? I don't think so. Correspondence, letter from Brian Wisniewski, which I believe you all have in your packet. Somewhere after chapter 9, but before the big printout from FEMA.
Twist my paperclips now, don't you?
I kind of did.
You're missing that tree that was out front too.
Yeah, seriously.
Two of them. That's FEMA for you.
Does everybody have the letter? Okay, I'm not gonna read it out loud. Brick project application from the state of Wisconsin.
What is that?
The first time I'm seeing it. It's due November 19th. Eric, do you know what this is?
Just walk out the door.
Oh. So that can stay.
Going back.
No, municipal building code effective as grading schedule, economically disadvantaged rural community.
This is
Looks like it was,
Wisconsin Emergency Management Bureau. Wisconsin Emergency Management FEMA, this is for mitigation.
It got all mixed up. This is what we're looking for.
When you go down here, we're talking about.
Yeah.
Wisconsin Emergency Management FEMA. Which looks like it'll go on to the next pages here. To try to do any type of identification of projects that would have to be mitigated.
Flip on that. Interesting.
I've never seen this before.
Would that have anything to do with the dump?
building resilient infrastructure and communities is what BRIC stands for.
Oh.
And there's 2.295 billion in grants available.
Part of this goes back into BRIC is what's now restructured for brownfield sites. So yes, this could be potentially applicable back to the landfill.
Cost share on it, 75 federal, 25 non-federal. EDRCs. What's an EDRC, Tony?
This to them on
EDRC?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
they're eligible for an increase in cost share up to 90% from federal.
Environmentally distressed. I don't know.
Economically disadvantaged rural community.
Oh, that was on the front page.
Good job reading, Chris.
Thank you.
Nobody else.
Under number 17.
I knew I saw it somewhere, I just couldn't click it.
So,
How to apply for BRIC grants. Application period opens on September 30th. Must be received by January 27th.
so this is part of, this goes back to the, I don't know if this is tied into the mitigation that we just, the emergency mitigation we just talked about, but this one is what I identified in an email a couple months ago to you and other people in regards to the landfill. This is the new program to be able to try to gain funding for basically blighted, contaminated, and otherwise environmentally or community blighted sites.
All
So
right,
we need to apply for that then?
Yeah.
We need somebody that knows how to navigate the grant application system.
You know anybody? No.
I believe that Naomi had said that they have.
Yeah, they have people on staff. They're not free. But they know what they're doing.
The liability we have, yeah, the liability we have towards any future cleanup costs at the dump site. Not to be free or easy either, so.
Right.
A little bit of money now to try to get some federal assistance with it. That would be a wise idea.
Very wise.
I would say let's go back, take a look at that email that I put together. I would suggest to send this over to Naomi's attention and ask her for opinion from their side of the house.
We could at least get a quote,
At least get an idea if this is what we need to be applying for.
Okay. I will, get this on to Naomi.
I think that would be a good place to start. I'd be more than happy to sit down and discuss it further and how I could assist with it, but this is a newer program, a revision of what's been out there for decades, but, yeah, once you said what brick was, I removed it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Item 12, public comments. I'm sure it's fun having Kelly back. 2 7s and no 11. Wow. No public comments.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Jeez.
Pretty short.
Some interviews, but it's fun.
May I have a little more time?
Huh?
So,
Yeah.
they're asking for publish our phone numbers.
1 second. You're still on camera.
I got it.
Roger that.
Give me just about a second.